Hi, in today's video, I'm sharing practical ways to heal the sacral chakra. Now, the human body has different auric layers, and if you were to separate them out, they would look something like this shown in the screen. Now, an easy way to connect to the auric layers with the chakra is think of layer 1, that is root chakra. Layer 2 is the sacral chakra, that is Swadhisthana chakra, and so on. You can check all these layer 1 to 7 in the given picture on the screen. For our discussion today, we will focus on the second layer of the auric body, which houses the sacral chakra, Swadhisthana chakra. Now, at a physical body level, this chakra is located 2 inches below the navel. And going by its location, the associated organs are kidney, bladder, and reproductive organs. So, by extension, we can say that the second chakra has everything to do with sex and our gender. Now, the second chakra is also connected to birthing children, which is a form of creative expression. And so, our creativity is also connected to the second layer of the auric body. And anytime we have problems in kidney, bladder, or reproductive organs, those can sometimes point in imbalances in the second chakra. Now, the level of mind associated with the second auric layer is called the instinctual mind. Another way to say this is that if we could discern how this second layer thinks, we would say that it thinks, it communicates through instincts. So, as an example, we all have heard about a mother's instinct. She knows when the baby is not well and knows how to soothe the baby, and this is something no one has to teach her. She just knows. Another example would be say someone cuts you off in traffic, you immediately respond either in anger or rage. Now, whenever there is a negative instinctual response that is going to be associated with big emotions of fear, anger, rage, and the likes, and so at one level, we can say that our instincts and emotions are interrelated. And more unhealed pain we have, chances are we are going to react in stressful situations rather than responding to them because our unaddressed pain tends to color our perceptions. Now, the second layer of the aura is the realm of the feelings and emotions. And unless we clear the pain in the second chakra, we are going to struggle with seven core emotions of unworthiness, shame, guilt, lack of trust, self doubt, betrayal, abandonment, anger, rage, fear, and enslavement. Now, thoughts and emotions they form a continuous feedback loop, and so when we struggle with negative emotions, it's a given we are also going to struggle with negative thinking with negative thoughts. Now, with what we have discussed so far as a baseline, let's talk about how we become aware of the contents recorded in the sacral chakra, second layer. Now, unlike other chakras, the way we become present to the content in the sacral chakra is through our interaction with other people. Other people can include our parents, primary caregivers, siblings, extended family, friends, colleagues, member of the opposite sex, and even our siblings or children. You know, it is in our relating and relationship with others that we start to become present to our negative emotions, our instinctual behavior, our knee jerk reactions, and even our emotional pain and conflicts. So, as an example, say a person has gone through divorce or a heartbreak. During such events, they become acutely aware of their emotional pain and misery. Now, when it comes to the second layer of the auric body, the conditioning of this layer starts early in the childhood. Through early interactions with our parents, caregivers, that really starts to set the tone of how you are wired at an emotional level. And again, the quality of your relationship with your mother, your father, and how you were raised determines how you respond to situations at an emotional level. So, for example, say you experience trauma in your early life, that's going to color how you respond in stressful situations. Similarly, say your parents were emotionally unavailable during your early years, that could potentially cause emotional blockages. The point being is, when we have pain carried over from childhood and it's not addressed, the child part in us becomes wounded, and it's also called the wounded inner child. And this unaddressed childhood pain can create a lot of unnecessary drama and conflict in your adult life. Now, on that note, sometimes children can internalize conflict with either parent, and that can negatively impact their masculine and feminine energies. Now, early interactions also includes relationships with siblings, with extended family members, and again, the quality of these relationships dictates your emotional health and well-being. You know, when you club all the early interactions with your parents, siblings, extended family, all of them together, they form the foundation or the blueprint of your emotional body. And this blueprint dictates how you will relate to other people. So, as an example, when you look at your relationship at this now moment in time, reflect upon, are you always assertive? Do you take responsibility in relationships? Do you stand in personal power and autonomy? Can you establish healthy boundaries, or do you end up in codependent relationships? Now, how you respond is obviously not set in stone. But if you want to change your relationship dynamics, you first have to be present to know how you are showing up. Now, moving along, another big theme of the second layer body is sexuality. Who you are attracted to, and why a lot of time it's an instinctual response. Now, the sacral chakra also influences how you relate to the opposite sex. For example, do you see men and women as equal, or do you think women are subservient to men? Chances are, if you grew up in a patriarchy unconditionally, you may still accept that men call all the shots, even though intellectually you know it to be otherwise. Now, sexuality also includes themes of gender mutilation, and any issue pertaining to gender in general. You know, our gender energies or sexual energies are sacral, and when there is a misuse or abuse of sexual energies, it adds to pain and misery in the sacral chakra. Now, another theme of the sacral chakra is addictions. When people are obviously to their emotions, to how they feel, then a lot of time their negative emotions will outwardly manifest as addictions. And this could be addiction to anything: food, money, power, sex, social media, Netflix, tea, coffee, nicotine, and so on. I mean, the list is endless in 21st century especially. So the bottom line is, anything there is, or anytime there is emotional trauma, you are going to see addiction of one sort or another. Now, our desires are also housed in layer, especially in this sector layer. And desire could be for anything, like insatiable desire for money, for sex, for power, for control, and so on. All of it stems from the second layer. Now, the second layer is also called the lower emotional body, because when we are operating from second chakra, we are emotionally reactive. Emotionally, we are on an automatic and we are not thinking through things. So, for especially those kids, and especially for the parents of the kids who has these drug addictions and a lot of drinking and smoking addictions, they should try to work on their sacral chakra, that is swadhisthana chakra. And now let's talk about practical steps you can take to heal the second chakra. My number one suggestion is really commit to your emotional awareness, so that you are aware of your emotional pain, conflicts, behavior, and even challenges. That's how you start to get present to how you are wired emotionally. You know, we can't change our instinctual responses without being aware of them. Another way to heal the sacral chakra is to really commit to healing your inner child, because the relationship you have with yourself, that lays the foundation of every relationship in your life. And as you become more loving to yourself, to your inner child, you start to change the lens through which you see other people, of how you relate to them, of how you give and receive love, and that in turn changes your relationship dynamics. Perhaps the most headway can make in healing the second chakra is to actively work toward addressing your negative emotions. And addressing your negative emotions, that is not sweeping them under the rug or keeping a tight lid on them. Especially if your goal is unblocking the sacral chakra, then you have got to commit to your inner work. For example, being able to identify your emotions of anger, fear, rage, shame, frustration in real time, and addressing them without shutting down, without analyzing, without over identifying, without judging. That's the hallmark of a well developed emotional body. Now, another way to heal the second chakra is to continuously and consciously work towards addressing your addictions. And depending upon the situation, professional intervention may be required. But as you let go of your addictions, I can say this from a lot of study, it becomes so much easier to be present with yourself, with your thoughts and emotions. Now, an important theme we discussed earlier in the video was our sexuality. And this one area that can hold a lot of pain and misery. So, healing the misuse and abuse of sexual pain, whether it was intentional or unintentional. On that note, addressing any dysfunctional fear generated in sexual relationships. Because when you leave them unaddressed, it can give rise to many problems, to fetishes, which is again not healthy for the healing of sacral chakra. Now, an important way to heal the sacral chakra is to address the pain lodged in our relationships. And this includes every single relationship with our parents, with sibling, with friends, family, social work. Every single relationship is a fertile ground for healing our sacral chakra. And what we need to do is bring the pain in the second chakra into our heart and transmute it, dissolve it with unconditional love and forgiveness. What we are essentially doing is we are moving the pain from lower emotional body, which is our second chakra, to the higher emotional body, which is our fourth chakra, our heart. Now, when the second layer is not healed, our definition of love gets skewed. Because as long as we are operating from our instincts, from our pain, our actions and responses are going to be devoid of love. As long as we are relating to other people from our second chakra, we often confuse love with lust, power, money, sex, or control. And of course, you and I both know that love is none of those things. And the thing is that until you open your heart, until you start tapping into your higher emotional body, you really don't know what love is. Now, based on our discussion so far, perhaps you can now understand why second chakra is one of the hardest chakras to master. Because healing these layers means addressing your emotional pain, mastering your emotions, getting to the root cause of why your emotions are there. Acknowledge them without shutting down. Now, in parting, I want to brief talk about the importance of setting realistic expectations when it comes to clearing your chakras. Mostly, when people start meditation, like most people, they quickly want to open the higher chakras, tap into feelings of love, expansion, and that's all nice and dandy. And I feel at one level we all crave divine love and presence. That's why we all want to hurry up and open our higher chakras. However, if we don't clear our emotional pain from this second chakra, we can't sustain those higher levels of awareness, because each chakra acts as the foundation of the another higher level chakra. I want you to think of your seven chakras as different floors on a tall building, and without a strong foundation, which is basically chakra 1, 2, and 3, your building will eventually topple. You know, one of my teachers often says that ascension is 99% emotional clearing. In other words, we can spiritually evolve without clearing our emotional pain and without mastering our relationships. And when you think of all the complexities in human relationships and human relating, and all the pain that is lodged there, that is what needs to be cleared for the effective functioning of the sacral chakra. And this, of course, takes time and energy, especially in the initial stages. But as you put in the hard work, as you stay put with determination, with preservedness, eventually you will heal your sacral chakra. I hope the session we talked about in this video are supportive in your healing journey. Thank you so much for giving your time, and I will see you in next video.